Welcome back. We're talking to Dave Cawley, the host of Cold, Season 3, and this time we're talking about Episode 8.
Yes.
This is one of those interesting episodes where we get to hear from the brother of Cary Hartman, as well as some more from Cary Hartman himself in the form of some police or, I suppose, not always police interviews. One of them is more of a prosecutor hearing.
Right.
So what did you learn from hearing both Cary Hartman and his brother talking to officials?
This police interview with Cary Hartman conducted while he was still incarcerated in 2005 is, to me, critical to understanding this case, because this is putting Cary Hartman on the record about where he was and what he was doing the night his girlfriend Sheree Warren disappeared. We hear the investigator, Shane Miner, ask Cary some very direct questions. Did you kill Sheree? Do you know where Sheree is? Did you put her on a mountain behind Cawley Reservoir? I mean, these are direct questions. And Cary answers no to all of those. The problem is there are witnesses in this case who contradict what Cary says in this interview. And so as we examine the evidence about what might have happened to Sheree Warren, knowing that there are these conflicts between what Cary says and the witnesses say, and what the witnesses say, to my ears, matters a lot. We also know that there was a reported sighting of Cary on this mountain behind this reservoir a few days after Sheree Warren disappeared, and the witness said that somebody was with Cary. And the witness said that somebody was Cary's brother Jack. So hearing Jack also put on the hot seat and ask directly, were you on this mountain with your brother after Sheree Warren disappeared? And he says he doesn't think so. He doesn't remember specifically. He's not sure. That's a big deal because these things don't line up.
Right. Well, speaking of those inconsistencies, I think it's a good opportunity for us to talk a little bit about memory, particularly so many years after an event. I don't know about you. I don't know that I would trust my memory that many years after something happened. So isn't it logical that there would be some inconsistencies in the stories that Cary Hartman is telling now compared to what he was saying then?
So there's a difference between inconsistency in memory, a story that changes over time, and inconsistencies between two versions of a story from two different sources. Cary's story changes immediately within the first couple of weeks after Sheree Warren disappears, and then it remains the same over the course of the next 20 plus years. He says the night that Sheree disappeared, he was with his friend Dave Moore at a bar, and he says they met at 9 p.m. Well, I talked to Dave Moore, and that's not the way Dave Moore tells the story. And Dave Moore has consistently over time told a story saying that he met with Cary starting at 6. So the inconsistency isn't that these two men can't remember when they showed up. It's that they both remember going to the bar, but over the years they have repeatedly told a different timeline about when that happened. And so Cary points to this timeline that he's advancing as an alibi. It means that I couldn't have done anything to Sheree. And what we hear from Dave Moore is, well, no, because we parted ways before Cary says that we ever met that night. And therefore, Cary's alibi doesn't stand up.
So at this point, you've got multiple different timelines that you're working with. You have Cary's version of the timeline. You have Dave Moore's version of the timeline. You have Richard's version of the timeline. You have Sheree's mom. Right. Like so many different versions. How do you figure out what's real? How do you keep it all straight?
So the more of the stories that line up together, the more credible they are. So when I look at the timeline, I have a giant spreadsheet of all of the different dates and times of everything in this case and who's involved, who said what when. And you look at, okay, earlier, closer to the event, that is going to take higher priority because of the fallibility of memory. Also, what was recorded? If it was written down in a report, I'm going to give that more credibility than somebody telling me all these years later, I remember vaguely this thing, right? And then, do I have more than one person telling me this? In the case of, Sheree's actions the day that she disappeared, we have her mom saying she left home and she went to go exchange custody of her son with her estranged husband, Charles Warren. We also have Charles Warren saying that happened. So there are two sources that tell us that happened. Meanwhile, you have Cary saying, no, she was with me that morning, and nobody else verifies that. So I give more credibility to Sheree's mom and her estranged husband than I do Cary in this contradiction.
How can I listen if I want to learn more about this particular episode?
So Cold Season 3, Episode 8, available now anywhere you get your podcasts. As always, if you want to binge out the rest of the season, just hit Amazon Music. It's free with Prime.